I did not touch that child. I said it the minute the bailiff sat me in that creaky chair, and I said it again when the cameras clicked and the whispers got sharp, and I kept saying it inside my head like a drum I could march behind so I wouldn't fall apart. My name is Tasha Brooks. I make heart-shaped pancakes that come out lopsided and perfect. I know which nightlight scares the monsters and which book has the loudest dinosaur roar. And if you have ever worked in somebody else's mansion, you already know the rule. Be steady, be invisible, be better than your paycheck says you are. You know what I mean? Grant Ellison's place sits over Riverbend like a glass museum, hedges tall enough to keep the sky out. Gates that open only when a security badge says please, and for 3 years I kept his little girl Emma safe and laughing in that big, lonely house. Mornings were our secret time, butter hissing, Motown humming low, her feet swinging from the stool, while I poured hearts on the griddle, and she asked if bunnies needed syrup, and I told her baby everyone needs a little sweet. After Grant lost his wife, he tried to fix grief with schedules, color-coded charts that made even bedtime look like a board meeting. Then he brought Celeste Vale in and called it Balance, Pearls, Perfect Hair. A voice that could sell snow to January structure is love, she'd say. Not to me, to the mirror, to the room, to the idea of herself. The night everything snapped, I made spaghetti because Emma said her bunny needed noodles to be brave. We ate at the small table because the big one echoes. We laughed when sauce hit her nose, baths, pajamas with glitter stars. The silly dinosaur story lights out by 8:15, and the house finally sounded like a home. At 9:03, a guard tapped the kitchen door like he was scared to wake the marble musts. Brooks. Mr. Ellison would like to see you, and in the study the air felt colder. Grant behind a desk the size of a car, Celeste by the window, like a portrait with opinions, and on the screen a photograph of Emma's cheek, purple, neat, wrong. "Explain this," he said, voice smooth and cracked at the same time, and I told him the only thing that was true. "I don't know where that came from. She was fine, we were laughing. Ask the kitchen cam, ask the neighbors." And Celeste slid a hand onto his shoulder and smiled like a lifeguard for drowning billionaires. Sometimes caregivers get overwhelmed. Own it quickly. Minimize the damage. I looked at her, then him, then that perfect bruise that didn't act like pain, and I said it steady because steady is a choice. I did not touch that child, and they still called the police. Jail has a clock that clicks too loud, and a bench that lies about being a bed. The first night I cried into my sleeve until the fabric went cold. The second I stared at the ceiling and counted dots like beads. By the third, I breathed slow and waited for somebody to treat my truth like it wasn't a coupon that expired last week. My public defender, Nina Park, showed up with shoes that had seen miles and a folder that looked heavier than it was. "I'm in your corner," she said. "But listen, belief doesn't win trials, evidence does. And people believe the story they can swallow without chewing. Right now they're ready to think you snapped." Yeah, that happened. We laid out the receipts, the grocery timestamp, the oven, preheat the camera angle, catching me laughing with sauce on my nose. It mattered just not enough to outshout a headline. In court, the judge's gavel hit like thunder. No one was scared of the prosecutor's voice. Wore kindness like a costume. The gallery leaned forward. For the moment they could tell their friends about later, and when Emma walked in, 5 years old, Bunny squeezed tight legs too short for the witness chair. I felt my heart try to get out of my chest. The prosecutor crouched like a kid's TV host. Celeste leaned in and whispered something into Emma's ear, and the child's voice tore like paper. Miss Tasha hit me, and I went quiet inside. Not because I believed it, but because I knew how fast a room decides it already knew. At the back row, a cop I hadn't met yet. Detective Marcus Doyle tilted his head at the big screen, not the way people tilt when they're judging, more like a mechanic listening for a rattle. And afterward, he took that photo to a friend in the lab off the record, because sometimes truth needs a ride. Marcus had seen real bruises, bikes and bathtubs and fists. He knew they don't care about edges, they swell odd. They fade strange. They look messy because hurt is messy. And this one, under magnification, had little glitter specks where glitter didn't belong. A faint tape line at the edge, a flatness makeup artists know. He pulled receipts, found cosmetics bought 48 hours before. Under Celeste's name, foundation concealer, a special effects bruise kit, the internet sells with a wink called Nina, and said, "I'm not your angel, but I'm not watching a lie win either." While that was brewing, the mansion kept running like a show, with a strict director. Celeste coaching Emma in a voice dipped in honey and threat. "Remember, sweet girl, if you tell the wrong story, Miss Tasha goes away forever." And down the hall, Grant stood outside the door, listening to words he did not want to own, choosing silence. Because silence is tidy, and upstairs, Emma pressed her face to that worn-out bunny and prayed a prayer so pure it hurt. "Come back, Miss Tasha." The morning we came back with Marcus and the folder. The courthouse felt like a glass about to crack. The prosecutor talked about consistency, like he was selling mattresses. The jury nodded, like they'd seen commercials, and Nina let silence breathe. Then said the line that put oxygen back in my lungs. "Sometimes what you're looking at is stage makeup. Sometimes the richest person in the room is not the one telling the truth." Marcus took the stand, not handsome TV cop fancy, just a man who knows how to carry heavy boxes without smashing the corners. 200+ child injury cases. This photo doesn't behave like trauma, uniform color. No. Swelling clean edges, lab finds cosmetic foundation, adhesive residue, synthetic glitter. That's not opinion. That's chemistry. And the room inhaled like one body. "Who had access?" Nina asked. "Anyone in the household," he said, but the receipt trail points to Celeste. And for the first time, her smile slipped absurd. She snapped, "I would never harm Emma," and Nina didn't blink. No one said, "You hurt her. We're saying you hurt the truth." Then came the bravest person in the building, 5 years old, feet kicking the witness chair, eyes moving from me to her dad to Celeste. And Emma said, "I don't want to lie anymore. Miss Tasha didn't hit me. Celeste told me if I didn't say it, she'd go away forever." And you could feel that sentence land on every chest. Even the cameras went still for a beat. And Grant stood so fast, his chair scraped. "I believe them," he said like a man relearning his own voice. The judge called recess, ordered an inquiry, told Celeste to sit. And for once, she didn't get to glide out like a perfume ad. The next day, the jury came back, and my hands went cold, even though I kept them steady. "Not guilty," the foreman said. And noise rushed in. I didn't fight my knees when they gave. I just caught Emma as she ran and folded around her, like I could keep the whole world off that little back. "I'm here, baby, I'm here." I kept saying it till it sounded like a song. Grant walked up with eyes red and voice raw. "I don't expect forgiveness. I chose fear over my daughter's voice. I'll spend the rest of my life making it right." And I didn't give him a speech. I just told him, do it for her, not for me, because my heart belongs to that child's safety, not a billionaire's apology. You want a neat bow? I get it. We all do, but here's the messy part. The DA opened a case on Celeste for perjury and obstruction. The lab results went into the record. The same anchors who painted me dangerous started saying alleged and miscarriage of justice, like that patched the hole they'd made in my name. But Celeste still left out a side door, in a good coat, no cuffs. A statement polished by a crisis PR team. I loved Emma like my own. I never painted a bruise. I'm the victim of a smear against women who demand order. Sure, okay. At my little apartment, boxes half open, Emma came over with the bunny whose ear I'd stitched twice. We made heart pancakes on a smaller stove that runs a little hot. She drew two stick figures holding hands under a sun, with too many lines, a square between us. That might be a door or a book. This is your house and me coming in, she said. And I taped it to the fridge like proof of life. Here's what I learned. People don't need facts to decide who you are. They need a picture that scares them and a caption that fits on a screen. But truth, quiet as it is, keeps walking. It shows up in a tired lawyer who says, "Let silence work in a detective's margin." Note that reads, "Too neat." Check adhesive in a 5-year-old who says, "I don't want to lie anymore." And if you're lucky in you when it's your turn. Next time a headline tells you who the villain is, ask who wrote it. And who profits when you nod, ask if you're listening to the loudest voice or the truest one. And if you've ever been decided about before you could speak, drop your story below. I'm reading. Hit, like if you stood with me, share. If you've seen staged truths win, and tell me in the comments. Did the court get it right? Should public shame be enough for someone like Celeste? Or do you think prison is the only language power respects? And what lie did you once believe because the picture looked convincing? Let's talk about it.